Rural Wood University with Jax. The tables turned. I went every which way that spring break. I visited Gibraltar's penthouse apartment in Hip City, where I made some cool tracks while he worked, and also managed to catch British comedian Noel Fielding at a local venue. Next, I visited James up in the Great Northern Forests, but I need not get into details about that time, mostly because it was rather ordinary. I was able to have a peaceful green power session with him, without slipping into any fishy mind states, and we chatted about the good old times as we gazed upon his green power operation. He was just James, living up in the woods, doing his lone wolf thing. My final trip of the vacation was with Jax though, and that's where things got interesting. I should have known this much going to Rural Wood University. The university had a reputation mostly for being a party school, but also for being isolated and a bit edgy regarding the mental health of its civilians. Nonetheless, I was intrigued by the idea of witnessing rural wood in its most primal form. Once I got there, Jax and I got some alcohol for the evening, and he also revealed his possession of DAMA, some little pink, salty crystals to dissolve under the tongue. There is a reason I haven't explored DAMA as a power so much in this writing, and that's because it's mostly a pleasure power, a feel-good essence that doesn't render as much in the way of great unknown navigation. That being said, DAMA has been shown to make people feel more empathetic and increase their chances of reconnecting with humanity. Still, it's a big risk, taking large amounts of DAMA unsupervised, because many have gone to such pleasurable heights that their pleasure power receivers have fried, leaving them to wallow in depressive waves, sometimes to the point of suicide. Not to mention, one can easily overheat if one dances too much with DAMA in tow. But Jax and I were responsible gents. Surely we could handle dipping our toes in, each of us at least a little experienced with the substance. We dissolved the DAMA and headed off to a party down the street. What we walked into was trap music, dim lights, and a bunch of dudes standing around not talking to each other, clearly waiting for the ladies to arrive. Once the ladies arrived, of course, all men proceeded to try their luck and engaged in displays of banter and competitive kidding around. I sort of joined suit, but being with Alison at the time, I decided to roll more with Jax and to avoid stepping on anyone's toes. For some reason, though, a girl still ended up punching me in the mouth. I must admit, I don't remember what I said to warrant this, but I'm almost positive that it wasn't warranted. I'm not one to say rude things to the ladies in hopes of some kind of naughty response. All I remember was that the girl looked like she was surprised that she could punch someone in the face, and she smiled at the powerful move she had made on me. Before I was punched in the face, though, a fight broke out between two bros, and at that point I knew the night was taking an undesirable turn. After too much alk and a DAMA buzz that was properly killed, I was done with the night sooner than later. I woke up with a swollen lip from the cheap shot and a hungover head. Jax had to go scrape ice off a lacrosse field for a few hours that morning, so I slumbered and tried to recover, knowing that we were going to connect to DSL later and I'd need my strength. It was a chilly, grey March day that would qualify as ominous in most books. Eventually, Jax returned, and we agreed to carry on with our plans. He had Sour Patch watermelons infused with DSL, as well as white chocolates infused with green power. We each took one morsel of each power, and by Jax's request, we started a documentary about people living and researching in Antarctica. We watched as the various machines performed operations on the Antarctic ice landscapes. And though I was trying my best to get into the narrative of Antarctic life, I found myself rather disappointed, unsure of why we chose this as content for our journey. Jax was clearly interested though, and I didn't want to start the DSL connection off with a confrontation. Anyway, it turned out being entertaining enough, and before I knew it, the documentary was showing how one could hear whale noises upon attaching a device to the ice. I found myself intrigued and starting to enjoy myself when Jax's roommate Gunther felt the need to chime in. He had walked in some few minutes into the documentary and he smelled like vinegar chocolate. "Those aren't real animal noises," Gunther said, as if he were personally offended. "This is bullshit. They're just making those noises with computers. Animals can't make noises like that." Jax and I were both taken aback, especially having made some headway into our DSL connections at this point. But after we expressed some peaceful disagreement with Gunther's perspective, he shoved off back downstairs to his room, perhaps realizing his vibes weren't desired. We decided to pause the film as we noticed the great unknown surfacing, what with the wiggling walls and the biggie smalls, my personal term for the dilation of objects. Being kept inside the confines of a building made us a bit claustro, so we went out on a walk down a semi-wooded path within the town. It was like a bike path in that it sometimes cut through the wooded backyards of different homeowners and other times felt isolated from anyone at all. Quickly, our conversation felt philosophical, or at least vaguely symbolic. "Where does this path end?" I asked Jax, mostly meaning, when are we going to turn around and get the fuck off this creepy path? There was a greyness to the day and a spookiness to the particular brand of poverty I was witnessing in the backs of these broken down homes. "I'm pretty sure it goes on forever," he replied in all seriousness. "Forever?" I was incredulous. "Well, I suppose I could have guessed that there is no true end, and thus probably no true beginning. It's just a path, regardless of where we are on it. The path pays no special treatment to any particular point. Fuck." I was overcome. What had started as a basic inquiry about the length of this sectioned off land turned into a spray of speculation about the existence of an all-knowing path of time, one indifferent to the transient feelings of its inhabitants. The great unknown has its way of making one question one's own agency. This all halted, however, when Jax stopped walking and claimed that he could see a giant eye formed at the vanishing point of the path, as far straight as we could see. As my vision adjusted, I too saw the vanishing point whirl into an ever-rotating eyeball image, almost as if it were a portal. We were both arrested by this eye in the distance and nervously decided that it was a sign to turn back and get home. It was growing darker and colder, and we kept running into people disfigured by drink and death stick. Once we got back to Jax's house, we hydrated and made some green tea, while Jax allowed me to share a song I had recorded recently, to see how he liked it. It was a song called Wondrous Dissolution, an electronic psych rock exploration. Jax thought it was interesting sounding, but said the lyrics were puzzling to him. Its abundance couldn't stop him. He was laughing all about it. Then came the dissolution. No more mission. Nothing certain. When it seemed that my music was making Jax a bit more than just puzzled, I turned it off, and he suggested we go upstairs. We could hear his housemate's music as we climbed the stairs, funky and lively music that sounded like James Brown. I stretched out on Jax's bed and closed my eyes as I smiled and nodded my head to the beat of the music. My right foot crossed over my left knee, swinging back and forth in sync. Jax sat in his computer chair and stoically closed his eyes in meditation. Every time the trumpet on the song came in, I would get a particular visual display in response, some dazzling visual EQ in a variety of geometric shapes. In the darkness of my closed eyes, I saw faces, tunnels, patterns, colours, you name it. I vocalized these observations to Jax. Whoa, that sounds pretty tapped, said a new voice in the distance. It was Jax's housemate from across the hall, Finney. I opened my eyes to see him stumble into Jax's room, wearing grey sweatpants and a white t-shirt. He was reasonably tall, about 6 feet or so, and had the body of an ex-hockey/football player. I judged him as a typical post-college student who was still hanging out with college kids to prolong his partying days. Regardless, I thought the guy was all right, since he had shared pizza and green power with me earlier, while Jax was off at the lacrosse field. Yeah, dude, fucking wild, I replied. How much did you guys take? Finney was intrigued. Like 1 1/4 watermelons, I said, cracking up. Ooh, you guys must be absolutely trapping nuts right now. Jax, you son of a bitch. You told me you didn't have any more doses, Finney said half seriously. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I wasn't sure if someone else was going to buy them. Jax came across distant and shaky. It wasn't that someone else was going to buy them, but rather that Jax just didn't want his housemate to have any of the DSL. Every time Finney connected, he had a habit of going on crazy Shakespearean tangents and fucking his girlfriend loud. Jax didn't mind Finney sometimes, though it was certainly a love-hate relationship. He just preferred that Finney didn't trip with us that day, so that there would be less confusion. Unfortunately though, for Jax at least, Finney came on in and plopped himself on a chair. A conversation developed between me and Finney while Jax drew a 3D model of a building, something he was going to school for. Regardless of his preoccupation with this, I believe his ears took in the whole conversation. Yo, so what's your major? Finney started with me. English, I answered. No way, man. That was mine too. Oh yeah? I didn't expect to meet a fellow English major here. At Rural Woods, I mean. I chuckled. Yeah, man, I mean, it's random as fuck because I've always played sports and shit. But yeah, I just love to fucking read. Like, Shakespeare is the shit. Have you ever read The Tempest? He was really stoked about the English connection. No, I actually can't say I've read much of Shakespeare at all. It's just too much work for me. It really was, and still is. Maybe in my older age, I'll be mature enough to truly love and appreciate it. Yeah, for real. But it's just so worth it. Like in The Tempest, the main character Prospero is a magician whose magic power is using language to manipulate others and make them believe in his power. Finney orated like a textbook. Oh shit, that actually sounds pretty sick. It sounded to me like Prospero was a powerful guy. Yeah, man, you got to check it. He has this book of magic that reminds me of the book that Johnny Depp has in that movie Ninth Gate. Now this had to do with Johnny Depp. This guy was really piquing my interest, seriously. I've never seen that actually, though I do love Johnny Depp movies. Yeah, he's a fucking champ. But anyways, in the movie he has this book called the Codex Gigas, which is a book in real life, that is also called the Devil's Bible. Legend holds that there was once a monk who broke his vows and was sentenced to be walled up alive, but avoided the punishment by promising to write a book in one night that would honour the monastery forever with all human knowledge that exists. After he realised he couldn't do it, he made a prayer to Lucifer asking him to write the book in exchange for his soul. The devil wrote the book, and the monk added in a portrait of the devil as thanks. Finney apparently knew the story very well, and if I didn't know any better from my past mistakes of ascribing devil status to ordinary individuals, I would have been a lot more worried than I was. Dude, holy shit, man. I gotta wiki this shit. A little double verification wasn't going to hurt, I decided. Chia, do it up. And what's even fucking crazier about it is that people have done tests to recreate the codex, and with calligraphy alone, without any of the pictures or the fancy colourful touch-ups, it would have taken 5 years of non-stop writing. So that shit has to have been made with the devil's power. That's truly bizarre. Dude, look at this fucking picture. I showed an image of the devil from the Codex Gigas on his computer. It was a scaly orange imp with horns, a loincloth, and a green reptilian face grinning with sharp teeth. Whoa, that's some creepy shit. Yeah, you know what's even creepier? The face looks a lot like the face of the dragon that ate me during my TMD trip. The dragon who had my face. It was like my face with that evil smile. Whoa! He was genuinely astounded. It was probably for the best that Finney didn't also connect to DSL that day. Yeah, and I've been doing a lot of reading, and apparently there is this theory that Christianity is backwards somehow, and that the devil, the snake in the Garden of Eden, was actually a cosmic dragon showing humans the fruit from the tree of knowledge, so that they could become self-reflective beings. In a way, the devil was doing Adam and Eve a favour. They were just complacent plant people in God's kingdom, with no sense of self-reflection or morality, and the devil enlightened them to the beauty of the binary nature of the universe. He made them animals with a higher purpose. Not that I'm a Satanist or anything. Jesus, no. I'm a man of light. The light of lapis lazuli, brother, I said, as Finney cackled. It was a theory worthy of exploring, I reckoned. We needed to hold these ancient stories up to scrutiny. I think of it more as the Christians using the devil's so-called evil as a means of mind control, and that the devil is really a benevolent cosmic dragon that created us in his own image using DNA. Think about it. DNA does look like two serpents spiraling around each other to make a unified structure. Maybe the whole code for the evolution of life on Earth lies in DNA, thanks to the panspermia of the great cosmic dragon, who we have all falsely come to know as the devil, Lucifer. I elaborated further. Yeah, and thanks to you too, right? Since the dragon had your face? Finney was quite the joker. I laughed. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was hesitant to bring it up, but having just talked so much about satanic content already, I felt safe enough to retell my story about my time with James in the northern woods, when I thought he was the devil. There is this story I have about when it seemed that the devil stole my soul. I ate an eighth of these penis envy mycospawn. Gross, Finney interrupted. Yeah, I mean they were these 3 huge ones that I dipped in melted dark chocolate, and you know, I was feeling on top of my shit like, oh yeah, I've been tripping for mad long. I'm the big master tripper now. I can fucking handle anything. Nope. It was clear that I was humbled. I went on to tell him the bulk of the story of that time I thought I had died. Jesus fuck, man. That sounds fucking tapped. Finney loved calling things tapped. For real. And he had a bowl of crystals and gems too, like this one. I lifted up my blue lapis lazuli stone pendant. I thought he trapped me in one of these. This whole time we were chatting, Jax had been trying to draw, but he was too overstimulated, saying he saw all kinds of chaotic patterns and images passing over the blank white paper. I assumed that he had heard the whole conversation as he sat there on the floor, but he later informed me that he wasn't actively listening. Oh, dude, I actually just remembered a codex that I looked up once. I was on a roll, having fun playing National Treasure with Finney. I think it was this Italian one with really trippy alternate universe shit. Let me see. I looked up the codex on his laptop. Ah, it's called Codex Seraphinius. Did you say Seraphinius? Finney asked. Yeah, man. Why? Dude, my last name is Serafini. What the fuck? I felt how wild of a coincidence it was. Yeah, man. Now that's fucking trippy right there. One has to admit, it was an odd synchronicity. Was there anything to really make of it? Man, I'm feeling so cat-like right now. I think I'm cat and dragon spirit animaled or something. I love thinking about people in terms of spirit animals. Like Jax, for instance, has always struck me as a rabbit. I brought up a bit randomly. You see Jax as a bunny rabbit spirit? How so? Well, you know, he's not the kind of pet to go out of his way to make any noise, or jump on you, or seek attention, or any of that cat and dog shit. He's just kinda chillin' there in his rabbit coop, perhaps appearing frightened to some people, but just doing his own thing and observing. You could feed him some vegetables, and he's fucking into it. During my rabbit description, Jax laughed hysterically. I would later learn that my anthropomorphic rabbit characterization of Jax dug into his brain a bit. Word brothers, well, I'm gonna go consume some green power and hit the hay. Nice chillin'. Finney went back to his room and closed the door. The music he was playing halted shortly after. Jax and I sat there in silence, both spacing out at the walls. Jax was slightly trembling, clenching his wrist and sighing. Yo, Jax, are you alright, man? What? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just so gone, you know? Like piffed. Jax made a motion where he threw his fist forward in the air and opened it at the same time to emulate an explosion. Oh shit. I don't really understand. Is that all you can say about it? It could mean many things, I reckoned. I don't know. It's just like, I'm so far gone. I don't know. Dude, Jax, come on, man. Talk to me here. I can tell something is obviously bothering you. What's up, dude? I just really don't know. Okay. I just really have no idea. I think I fucked up and now I'm really scared. What, man? Dude, you have nothing to be scared of. You're just paranoid from the DSL. And it's all going to be over in, 5 hours from now. We've been through the strongest bit, and now we're just coming down. I'm still deep in the great unknown, man. I haven't come down like you. I think Jax was right about this. Well, fuck, man. I don't know why I was being so harsh. It was quite uncool of me looking back. What do you have to be scared of? Tell me one thing you should be scared of right now. Jax thought about it, but it was clear that he didn't feel that he could say what he was thinking for some reason. I can't talk about it, man. I just can't right now. Okay, dude. Well, do we have to go somewhere? Is it because of where we are or something? I thought maybe he was having a conflict with his shitty roommate, and he wouldn't speak up for fear of being heard. No, it's not, man. Fuck, I'm so screwed. Jax started looking sad and helpless, as if he was on the verge of tears. I looked at Jax with a lot of concern. Dude, you're really scaring me, man. You're starting to make me feel like some really bad shit is gonna happen. I think you're just very confused about something. Let me just clear this up and say that nothing that has been talked about tonight means anything. You know what I mean? I thought that, just in case he actually had absorbed the devil content that was discussed, I should at least clear up that none of that shit was the case right now. Jax visibly eased up a little bit. I think so. Like if you are thinking about any of that devil shit or anything, just forget about it right now because it has nothing to do with reality or what's going on right now. This was sort of easing Jax, but I could tell it also seemed strange to him that I knew exactly what he was thinking and going through, and for some reason I was kind of angry about it. I have an idea, man. How about we meditate? I think that will help us relax, I quickly offered. Surely, if we were in the dark corners of the great unknown, we could provoke the positive forces of Eastern spirituality. Jax agreed. But when we started to meditate, I could tell that he wasn't able to relax. I went out on a limb and asked Jax straight up if he thought that I was the devil. Jax paused, and with some relief said yes. that he indeed thought I was some kind of devil. I expressed much sorrow for having accidentally put him through such an exhaustive bad time. He said it was okay, but he was just glad now that he was definitely safe. I was glad that I too was now safe, as I remembered thinking about killing James when I thought he was the devil. Who knows what action Jax might have wanted to do against me in the same scenario. Jax finally came down and understood that he was safe, that somehow the conversation from earlier had gone in a direction that tricked him perfectly. He realized that it was good that it was me who had been his devil delusion, because he would have been far more scared had he thought it was someone else whom he trusted less. He agreed that it was really strange how that phenomenon worked, how the devil could just invade a psychedelic experience and drain someone's energy. We both relaxed and went to bed hours later, and Jax divulged to me the details of what exactly he thought was going on with me. When I had so accurately described the very nature of his soul, that he was a rabbit spirit, Jax felt as though I had exposed his soul, psychically drained him of his astral energies, and stored the energies in my lapis necklace, just as Prospero had used language to gain power in the Tempest. It was all making too much sense. In Jax's eyes, I had came to rural woods to steal his astral energy, and this whole conversation between Finney and I was all just some fucked up way of revealing our true identities as ancient, extremely powerful astral wizards. My story about having my soul stolen by the devil was actually just a way of revealing what I was going to do to Jax. But what's the freakiest about it is that Jax said he didn't hear me tell my story about thinking James was the devil. He didn't hear my story, but the exact same thing happened to him as in the story, and my song lyrics from earlier. Jax was laughing all about the rabbit description, the description that dissolved his soul, and that left him with no more mission and nothing certain. He admitted that the lyrics had fucked with him in such a way. I had to be the devil, or some vampiric astral wizard of some sort, and it only seemed logical that I had stolen Jax's soul's energy and stored it in my gem necklace, deeming him my pet rabbit. The night went on, and we crashed early in our separate corners of his room. We chalked it down to a crazy time the next morning, and I was well on my way back home before returning to Hip Forest University to finish out my junior year. I was feeling at this point that I had pushed the envelope plenty far enough with Mycospawn and DSL, perhaps letting a little too much of the great unknown into my psyche. It's not that I felt damaged, but rather that there was a moderation to strike with the use of these powers, and I was perhaps going a bit beyond this moderation in my consumption. So off I went, back to uni, where I shortly thereafter parted ways with Alison. With so much in flux and feeling quite a bit of rejection, I decided it was time to chill a bit on gaining knowledge from the great unknown, just as well as it was time to chill on getting real with a lady.